All right, we want to get to some breaking news just coming in. There is a pursuit happening on the 405 right now. You can see this is in the 405. Breaking news just coming in. There is a pursuit happening on the 405 right now. You can see this is in the 405 southbound lanes near Sunset Boulevard. This driver has been going for a little bit now with CHP and other law enforcement following them for quite some time, going about 48 miles per hour right at this particular moment. Let's get over to assignment manager Mark Liu at the desk with more details as to how this started. Mark?
Yeah, Jamie, so I was just talking to my colleagues at the assignment desk in the newsroom. They were on the phone with the CHP. This is described as a stolen vehicle pursuit. That silver minivan you see there now southbound on the 405 coming out of the Sepulveda Pass towards the LAX area. Originally, this was a pursuit out of Ventura County. It was Ventura County sheriffs that about 40 minutes ago started this pursuit out in their area. This pursuit came eastbound on the 101 and then came south on the 405, and CHP at some point took it over. I was listening to it very briefly on the CHP West Valley frequency. It appears that CHP is now the lead agency here, and they are going to hold on to this one while Ventura County sheriffs may follow up after this pursuit comes to an end. But it was originally Ventura County sheriffs that wanted this vehicle as a stolen vehicle out of their area. Now you can see there does definitely appear to be someone obviously in the driver's seat. Unclear about anyone else in that minivan. Again, we have seen this so many times. The tinting on the windows here, very dark. I have not heard the CHP discuss with the air unit overhead yet how many people are inside of that minivan beyond just the driver. Looking overhead, I do see that LAPD Air Support is assisting CHP with this pursuit. So really, Jamie, we're talking about three different law enforcement agencies somehow involved in this. Ventura County Sheriff's, CHP, and then LAPD, as we're entering LAPD jurisdiction here. They're going to be the one tracking this, assisting CHP with following this van now southbound on the 405. You can see about 65 miles an hour is what we're looking at here. Really not too many aggressive maneuvers by this driver. Certainly drivers on the 405 might not even realize this is a pursuit, as those lights and sirens on those CHP units are on, but it's just difficult to tell from SkyCal. But we're proceeding southbound at a pretty good clip here, now approaching 80 miles an hour as we head toward LAX.
Well, I am very familiar with this particular stretch of roadway because this is how I go home a lot of the time. And I can tell you this time of day, this is very light traffic for this time of day. So he or she, whoever the driver is able to get now, as you see, up to 80 miles per hour, which I can tell you there's a lot of the time at the lunchtime hour, you're not getting above 40, 50 miles per hour. So he or she, the driver, cruising along here and able to kind of make some headway. But the interesting thing to me is that if they did come off the 101 to the 405, there's often just such thick traffic right at that interchange this time of day, that to be able to just get through that and now continue with this pursuit over the hill into the west side area, as you said, headed toward the LAX area. This person moving very, very quickly. We saw them as low as about 40 miles per hour at certain points, but obviously traffic breaking up here quite a bit, Mark.
Yeah, things, I'm just checking the traffic maps here. Things are pretty good on the 405, as you mentioned. It can bunch up real fast around LAX and the 405, and it will after this driver gets closer to, say, the Mar Vista, the Del Rey area down there. There's a little bit more traffic, but things are looking pretty good on the 405 right now. But this driver just seems to be content to stay on the left side of the freeway there, and the number 4 and 5 lanes just keep going at this current speed. There's a pursuit package, as they call it, behind this driver. CHP is going to maintain this pursuit.
Is there any potential that we could lose the signal here going toward LAX?
It's possible. The 405 is usually not too bad in terms of the temporary flight restraining order, the temporary flight restriction. We shouldn't lose a signal. All
right. Well, we are going to wrap it up here on CBS LA at 11 on Channel 2. Let's head over to KCAL 9 for continuing coverage of this pursuit. Thanks for joining us. You are watching KCAL 9, CBS LA on KCAL 9, and we are continuing to follow this pursuit along the 405 and the southbound lanes. You can see we're headed toward the Long Beach area now, Palms as well. This is still on the west side of things. We're It looks like, yeah, the Palms area, kind of Venice Boulevard. But this vehicle started in Ventura County as a stolen vehicle, is what Mark Liu has been able to find out from the assignment desk. Mark, you've been making additional calls to learn more about this.
Yeah, we're reaching out to also Ventura County sheriffs at the assignment desk in the newsroom to get some more details about exactly where in Ventura County this started. But it was Ventura County sheriffs that initially tried to pull this driver over about 30-40 minutes ago. One, again, stolen vehicle, unclear if they read that off the license plate reader, if they have other information. Beyond the driver being inside this minivan, we don't know anything else about the occupants or whether or not that driver may have. Whoa!
Wow!
Quick move there. Unclear why that happened. I did not see any cars or any sort of obstruction in front of that driver. Why they made a sudden random move into the lane?
It makes you wonder if there's someone else maybe in the vehicle where they're fighting with one another about potentially pulling over.
That could certainly be something going on inside the cabin that we don't know about, a second person or a third person, perhaps some sort of decision going on in there about that. But that was a strange, sudden movement to the right when there was no obstruction in front of that driver to get around, another car or a piece of debris or something like that. Either way, CHP continues to chase this driver. They took it over from Ventura County sheriffs as it left the Ventura County area on the freeway, then got on the 405 headed south, as we had mentioned. Now we are heading through the Mar Vista area. We're going to head into the Westchester area. Things are going to start to bunch up here. Traffic is going to slow down a little bit on the 405. We were talking about how that happens in this area of town around this time. And certainly people going to LAX know this route. We are going to be approaching LAX. Depending upon how this driver behaves, it could be a little bit difficult for SkyCal to maneuver in this area because we will be on the flight path for those jets landing in a westbound direction into LAX. But usually the 405, not really a problem. LAX air traffic control usually lets SkyCal proceed directly south on the 405 if that's what this driver intends to do. However, if they start heading east along the 105, could get a little dicey trying to follow this. The LAPD airship that is overhead, that is the allied agency that is assisting the CHP with the aerial intelligence to keep those CHP officers right behind this van. They're going to have a little bit easier of a time navigating that LAX airspace. They have priority over media airships like SkyCal. But you can see that pursuit package is what we always talk about here. All of those CHP units right behind that driver, and they will be ready, and they're going to stay right behind that driver. This is not a surveillance mode or a tracking mode. CHP usually does not do that. They stay lights and sirens behind stolen vehicles usually the entire time, Jamie.
You know what I'm finding interesting about this, Mark, and I don't know if you'll find it as interesting as maybe I do, but he or she, the driver, not going into the carpool lane. There have been multiple times where cars have been in front of him and he's slowed down but has not moved into that lane at any cost here.
You know, we really don't know what's going through the mind of that driver. That left-hand lane is the diamond lane. You can see right there. Maybe this driver's just, who knows?
Very conscientious of
they're
not
very
getting
conscientious,
in the carpool lane.
Right? They're breaking a lot of other laws, but they're not going to get that $268 ticket or whatever it is for, whatever, however high it is, $400 for a carpool lane violation. But you can see the CHP as we continue southbound here through the Westchester area. We're in Ladera Heights is to the east and Westchester to the west now as we're going to pass through LAX. It is busy down here. It's starting to pick up in terms of traffic, that noonday traffic here on the southbound 405. Again, unclear how many people are inside that silver minivan beyond the driver. We saw that aggressive move that they took. Could it have possibly been because of some sort of decision someone in the passenger seat maybe made with that driver to do that? It's unclear, but yeah, maintaining a good 70-mile-an-hour clip here on the southbound 405 on this Monday afternoon.
You know, we're talking about potentially there being a passenger in there because you and I are both watching this while being conscientious of that carpool lane, not getting in it, slowing down, not really driving that erratically. Just a few minutes ago, made kind of a odd move, you know, into the right-hand lane. But we don't really know much more about who's inside this vehicle, right? And usually at this point, we're getting some details of a potential description, whether it's male or female, if there could be potentially other passengers in the car. We haven't heard much of that. And here's what we're talking about, that swerving that happened near Venice Boulevard that just kind of seemed to come out of nowhere. And now the car has now gotten back on track again. And as you can see, going about 65 miles per hour along the 405 southbound lanes as we are still in Westchester, headed toward LAX and then further south to Long Beach potentially if it does continue to go that far. Would there be potential that we would call in other police departments as we start entering some of the South Bay area?
It's possible. They're the primary agency here. They have not requested any help other than the LAPD Air Unit, which is providing that air intelligence overhead, the air commander there. Usually when CHP takes one of these things and it stays on the major freeways, they will just stay with it the entire way. CHP is usually pretty content to handle this. It's possible if this driver gets off of the 405 and onto surface streets for an extended period of time, there could be another agency that could pick this up, but even then, we have seen CHP stick with this for quite some time. If they have 3, 4 of their units behind this vehicle, they have a tendency to just simply stay with it. Now we are getting awfully close to LAX. This is Manchester Boulevard we're coming up on. We are getting close to that temporary flight restriction, that TFR that is around LAX, the Class B Bravo airspace. It's not temporary, it's actually permanent, the Bravo airspace, excuse me. This is the landing strip, the zone that wide-body aircraft use to land in a westbound direction at LAX. So SkyCal is going to do their best to navigate through here. Hopefully, if it's not too busy at LAX, the LAX tower will give us permission to basically fly directly over the airport. It looks like that's what SkyCal is going to do. We're going to head directly over the airport, so those jets are going to be landing below SkyCal as we continue to follow this pursuit southbound on the 405. You can see those CHP officers just about 500 feet, 600 feet behind this minivan as it continues southbound.
Again, I have
not heard any radio traffic about anybody else in that van yet. We're trying to get some more information. The assignment desk in the newsroom is telling me they're actually on hold with Ventura County sheriffs, where they're just getting some new information right now.
Okay, well, we hope that they continue to work those phones, because it does seem, for as long as this pursuit has been going on from Ventura County to now near LAX, we would potentially usually have more details than what we do about who may be in this vehicle, or at least how many people or gender or whatnot on the driver. But right now, we've seen the fluctuation now between 60 and 90 miles per hour on the southbound sides. As you've indicated, SkyCal has also had to turn itself a little bit. We're now getting kind of an east view of the 405 instead of from behind this vehicle, but you can still see those CHP officers trailing. What, in your expertise here, Mark, what do you see happening? I feel like they've backed off a couple times. Now it seems like they're right in pursuit of this. What is the hopeful outcome here?
Well, CHP, they have a very standardized pursuit methodology. They usually will just track this driver, stay behind lights and sirens until this driver ultimately gives up. They are very tenacious, and they are willing to simply follow this driver as far as they need to go until that driver runs out of gas, or more likely, much sooner, runs out of willpower to keep this pursuit going. Now, I just got some information from the Ventura County Sheriff's. This gray Toyota Sienna van was there was an attempt to stop it in the Moore Park area, which is Ventura County Sheriff's. The woman behind the wheel is being described as the driver, refused to comply with CHP officers, and the pursuit started. There is no indication that this is a carjacking. This is just a straight-up stolen vehicle report. And there is also no information about anyone else in the van besides that woman who is in the driver's seat. So they are basically, Ventura County wants to stay involved in this. They are behind the CHP. There's a couple of units behind, but they are allowing CHP to be the lead agency here. But they have said that when CHP does finally bring this pursuit to a close, Ventura County Sheriff's deputies will be on station to bring this woman back to Ventura County to face charges.
I now have more questions, because if there's no one else in the vehicle, then you wonder what happened to potentially make her swerve. Did she drop something, or maybe, was fiddling around with some controls or whatnot? But now driving pretty, for all intents and purposes during a pursuit, we've seen a lot of erratic driving in the past. This has been fairly calm. Again, the driver not getting into the carpool lane, kind of just sticking, to the lane that she's in right there. You can see those CHP officers behind her. I also now wonder, sometimes with a stolen vehicle and you hear a woman in the past, I've reported on, it's a domestic that has somehow taken a turn. There's potentially a fight that's taken place, something like that. So we're going to have to dig in and figure out, too, what actually caused her to steal this vehicle. Moore Park, obviously a very residential, neighborhood oriented kind of place here in Los Angeles. You can see her slowing down, though, right now as traffic is building up in the Inglewood area, Mark.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, we really don't have too many details exactly as to what precipitated.
Oh, what's happening here?
That might be a spike strip.
Yeah,
stop sticks, exactly. We have a CHP officer. This is pretty rare. We usually don't see something like this. That was a CHP officer who attempted. I wasn't sure if they were able to bring that to completion there, those spike strips, but that's an escalation.
Yeah.
Certainly here, a CHP officer was able to get into position on the northbound side of the 405.
Shutting down the northbound side.
What's that?
It looks like they shut down the northbound side.
Yeah, you need to. In order that CHP officer would have to get out of their van, out of their unit, in order to position those spike strips onto the southbound side. But want to clarify, we don't know exactly what any charges beyond, as you had mentioned, this stolen vehicle report. It's a non-carjacking related stolen vehicle incident. So apparently this vehicle not taken with force in the way that we would traditionally think of a carjacking.
Right.
So unknown if this is burglary to a vehicle, or perhaps this vehicle was simply taken without the owner's permission. If the driver knows the owner and simply is not allowed to have this vehicle, we don't know. Ventura County Sheriffs did give us a little bit of a clarification. They say that this pursuit started in First and Cochran, which is actually not in Moore Park. That's in the Simi Valley area at First and Cochran, at about 10:53. So now we're looking at just under an hour on this pursuit and continuing southbound. But yeah, Jamie, as we had talked about, the very methodological way, the methodology that CHP uses when they try to stop pursuits, they will just follow this driver until the driver gives up, and then they will attempt things like spike strips if they have spike strips there that in a vehicle and an officer who's trained how to use them.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen them shut down the highway to do that, or it's happened very few times where that ends up happening, because that can be such a danger to the officers to get things shut down. Clearly, they thought they must have had a shot to get her to run over those sticks.
Yeah, it could just be that things really lined up in favor of the CHP. They may have had an officer that's trained how to use those spike strips that was heading northbound on the 405 and coordinated with the air unit. And that officer may have just said, look, I might be able to get this done. I'm going to stop the northbound 405, because it looked to me, it was just, very briefly, I have to go back and look, it was just one officer that was down there.
That's what it looked like to me. I also find it interesting, as you said, if it just happened to line up like that, it was really bad timing. I think people were starting to slow down in the southbound lanes, looking to see what was happening in the northbound lanes, because they had shut down that roadway. I don't think he or she, the officer, was able to get a clear toss of those stop sticks out to be able to have the car run over, because they had actually slowed down. You think, if the driver was able to run them over right now, going almost 70 miles per hour, a much different story. We're showing on the right-hand side of your screen earlier when this car was in the Venice area. You can see it swerve. We're not quite sure what happened there. As Mark Liu just indicated, he got information that it is a female driver, but there's no indication that anyone else is in the vehicle. So not sure if, maybe she was distracted by something, or her phone dropped, or whatnot, or why that swerving did occur. But this is back now live. You can see along the 405 southbound in Gardena at Harbor Gateway, going just about 34 miles per hour now. We aren't sure if a tire was impacted. It doesn't seem to be at this point to me that she was going 65, 70 miles per hour.
No, and you know what? I actually was just listening to Director Justin show that swerving again. Now that I saw it 3 times in a row, I think there may have been spike strips in the lane.
Interesting.
It went by very fast, and since SkyCal was sort of zoomed out, but I got to look at it when we repeated it 3 times. I think there may have been spike strips. So this may have been a second incident of spike strips. So CHP being very aggressive in trying to bring this to an end with those spike strips by using them, launching them from the other side of the freeway. Now, it also recalls in my memory, and I'll have to go back and look in the archive while I've got one eye on this pursuit, that there was another pursuit where the vehicle that was being chased, the driver was being chased, was in either the carpool lane in heavy traffic, and there was some spike strips that were deployed as well. And I have to go back. It was about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I believe, they did this as well. So we have seen more and more of that happening now as I begin to jog my own memory banks of seeing action like that.
And you've seen a lot, Mark, so
yeah,
that's saying something.
We get a lot of pursuits in Southern California with a lot of different agencies with a lot of different tactics. So looking here through that very powerful zoom lens on SkyCal, we can see what appears to be a very calm driver with both hands on the steering wheel, proceeding southbound at about 70 miles an hour.
Yeah, hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2 and not driving into the carpool lane. The only time we did see any type of erratic behavior was that swerve, as you indicated, could have been spike strips, something else. But otherwise, the entire time, been relatively stable in terms of her driving style, at least. Doesn't seem to be overly aggressive with other drivers on the road and maintaining a speed between 65 and 80 when she's getting these clear pathways here. Again, a stolen vehicle, as Mark said, not a carjacking report made for the stolen vehicle. So still unclear as to how this driver, a female driver, got a hold of this van in Ventura County in the Simi Valley area, and now all the way down toward Compton on the South 405, Mark.
Yeah, and getting some more information now from the CHP. Apparently, a family member, perhaps the mother of the woman behind the wheel here, is communicating with officers and saying that her daughter who was behind the wheel here, is not armed.
Okay.
Unclear how the mother knows that or is confident of that, but is communicating to CHP that her daughter, who is apparently behind the wheel of this minivan, it does not have any weapons, which is going to be a relief to CHP. Of course, they don't know that 100% for sure. They always have to treat each driver as possibly being armed, because the person on the other end of the phone may not have a complete picture of what's going on.
Sure.
But at least one alleged family member of this person is indicating to CHP that this woman is not armed, which again also is perhaps telling more of the story as to how this minivan is stolen.
Right.
It's unclear if it was taken in a burglary or if it was taken in some other way, or just it could be that this person just doesn't have ownership of this vehicle. They're not supposed to be the ones driving it. It could be a family vehicle. We just don't know. But Ventura County sheriffs did try to stop this vehicle under the pretense that it was stolen, and this driver just refused to stop and is now heading into LA County on the southbound 405, but CHP is going to maintain the primary responsibility of this pursuit.
And we don't have an age range of the driver at this particular moment.
No, just described as an adult. It's an adult woman, yeah.
So I feel like each piece of information we get, it does build somewhat of a story, maybe a story we're telling ourselves. But if the mother is potentially watching this, knows that her daughter is behind the wheel of this vehicle, is reporting that she's unarmed, so knowing that CHP is following her and that this is a dangerous situation, you have to wonder, as I said earlier, I have covered where there's been a domestic incident that kind of prompts some of this. Sometimes when we say domestic incident, you immediately assume that it would be a spouse or partner, but potentially it's the mother and the daughter who could have maybe had some type of argument or whatnot, and the daughter ends up taking, as you said, the family minivan potentially. We're not quite sure, but for the mother to call in and say that she's unarmed, she clearly sees how dangerous this situation has now become for her daughter. Yeah, that's exactly right, and we just don't know. We may not know until after this pursuit has ended, when we can get more information from all the agencies involved. But we've been able to put together 2 pieces of video that show both attempts at a spike strip here. There's the first one, and if you can see, there's definitely a spike strip that happened there, and then that was in the Palms area, and then you've got this one here in Inglewood where CHP, you can see the spike strip very clearly. This minivan tried to get around it, and they did. But very brave for CHP to do this on a freeway. The good news is, of course, it's a clear, dry day, so the visibility is good. CHP, they're professionals when it comes to stopping freeways. We've seen them do it before. They also have a methodology for doing that. They're very trained and experienced in handling that. But that's what was required here in order to get that spike strip over the center divider and into lanes of traffic. Unfortunately, I believe this driver was able to avoid them both times. So 4 intact wheels on this Toyota Sienna as it continues southbound. Now coming up on 80 miles an hour as we continue here. Let's see, I'm going to check the map. We are far south of LAX now. We're actually in the Long Beach area. Yeah. We're passing the
the 710.
So obviously CHP will continue as we potentially get towards Orange County. Could anybody in Orange County end up also joining this or provide any type of assistance?
Yes, the Orange County sheriffs have been known also to engage in pursuits in their area. We've seen them assist law enforcement in ending pursuits. I mean, we had one the other day with that big rig that had been stolen. And I can't remember exactly who was the agency that was initially chasing that big rig that didn't have a cargo container attached to it, but it was North County SWAT, which is an Orange County conglomeration of North County, cities of Orange County. That SWAT vehicle ended up colliding purposefully with that big rig in order to try and bring it to an end. So Orange County, they are certainly willing to bring their officers or deputies into these engagements to try and assist this and bring it to an end in their region. Unclear if they'll do that here, but CHP again continuing right behind this Toyota Sienna minivan that has now taken us from Ventura County through the San Fernando Valley, south along the west side, now into southern LA County, possibly into Orange County.
Oh, and I gotta be honest with you, to get from Ventura County all the way down to Orange County in about an hour and 10 minutes is what we're looking at. Traffic has not been an issue today in terms of this driver being able to make a lot of headway. And I do wonder, as we're watching this kind of play out, if if this had been a day where there'd been a major issue on the 405, if we would still be in this pursuit. But usually somewhere, I'm usually driving the 405 southbound between the 101 and where we've been watching today, and there's usually at least 2 or 3 hiccups, as you're kind of going over the hill that you would think would potentially slow this driver down. But we've seen her going, in that lane, not moving over to the carpool lane, not changing lanes, really in any fashion. Even when coming up on a car in front of her in some traffic, not moving, not driving erratically, not changing lanes, not going really past 80 miles per hour, which all of that is a little unusual from pursuits we've seen when there is such little traffic. It looks like there
may have been another attempt right there. Yeah. I was just looking at the map. You had made a comment about how the traffic is really flowing very well, getting from Ventura County all the way down here to Long Beach. It looks like the 405 to the 5 southbound is green all the way to the border.
Is it a holiday?
I don't know. It's a Monday, and there is nobody really on the 405 to the 5. If this driver has the intention to continue as far south as they possibly can go, there's no traffic all the way to southern San Diego.
Oh, so you're not seeing anything even south of this point?
Nothing. Absolutely not. We're not seeing anything. I mean, there's a few very, very small moments of yellow that possibly they may hit in maybe the Lakewood area. We may have through that, and one small one in Oceanside. Otherwise, this is the greenest map that I've seen in a while, heading all the way to the border, essentially. So traffic is not going to be an issue for law enforcement or this driver at this point. So, CHP knows that. They may have to settle in for a driver that is not going to have a lot of stresses of traffic on them. That's one of the things that they say in terms of pursuit psychology. Right. Drivers can become stressed. The fleeing driver can become stressed when they're faced with a lot of traffic. That can actually work sometimes to the benefit of law enforcement as drivers realize they have nowhere to go and they give up. But we have certainly interviewed drivers that have been involved in pursuits before, and they have mentioned that if they see an open road in front of them, there is a very strong belief that they can somehow get away, which of course is wrong. But we'll see how this happens with this particular driver here.
Yeah, the psychology of it all is fascinating. You and I have talked about this before. You can see this is one of those points where she is slowing down. It's a female driver in that minivan there in the center of your screen. But the truck now moving over, and she's sticking to her lane, not even not crossing over to try to get around people when there is a slowdown. And you're right, Mark, you and I have talked several times about these drivers. The adrenaline gets going, they see the open road, they think that they're almost invincible, that there's no way that anybody's gonna catch them. And I guess at this point we're just gonna have to wait and see how much gas she had in the tank and when that potentially starts running out, and if so, does she get off the freeway? Does she move to side streets? Does she come to a stop? There's just so many variables here now. We're slowing down once again to about 17 miles per hour. Again, a little bit of traffic, it looks like, on the southbound lanes of the 405, but not not enough to stop this person now going almost 60 miles per hour. As they move through a little bit of congestion there. But as you said, it's not enough congestion to come to a complete stop. I also, we've seen a couple spike strip attempts from the other side of the freeway, not seeing any other officers on the other side at this point in time. We're playing video from a little bit earlier where there were 2 attempts to potentially stop this car as the northbound lanes of the 405 were shut down to make those attempts at the driver, but the driver able to get away and really, really being able to move through from Ventura County almost all the way now to Orange County.
Yeah, they're now green all the way down into San Diego. There's one small bit of yellow in the Oceanside area. Now, SkyCal just a few moments ago was able to zoom in very closely on the passenger seat, the front passenger seat of this minivan. There is definitely no one sitting in it. It looks like there's maybe a small light-colored briefcase in the passenger seat. That's what it looked like to me. It was a little difficult, but SkyCal did their best to hit a moving target with that zoom lens in order to see what's in there. But there's definitely nobody in the passenger seat. So it's very clear that the information that CHP has that there's no one else in the van with this woman may end up being correct at this point, but there is still some pretty heavy tinting on the back of those windows there, so there's still a possibility that there could be somebody hiding back there. But right now, CHP operating on the information that it's just the driver in that van.
I would think too, Mark, I mean, based on your reporting just a few minutes ago that the mother potentially called and said that the driver does not have a weapon in the vehicle. I'm guessing if the mother had any additional information about somebody being with this suspect, that she would relay that information as potential, something that law enforcement would need as they continue to pursue this vehicle. Do you have new information?
No, we're just looking at that. We're trying to get some more information from both CHP and Ventura County. It's we don't really know the circumstances beyond this just being a stolen vehicle out of the Ventura County area in the Simi Valley. First and Cochran was where this pursuit picked up at about 10:53. So now we have just passed the 1 hour mark as this pursuit continues now southbound for the 405. We really don't have any information about the destination of where this driver intends to go. I mean, we are very far outside of Ventura County. It's unclear if the driver is familiar with Ventura County or if they're perhaps heading to some place that they're familiar with. That's another part of the psychology we've talked about before, is that pursuit drivers generally tend to go to areas that they're familiar with. We've seen them circle neighborhoods that they're familiar with, or perhaps where they grew up or where they live. And then there are other times that pursuits take drivers way off into territories unknown to them. We've seen drivers head way up the 5 through the Grapevine and then be taken into custody way up to the north. And sometimes they head into San Diego. I can tell you, it was years ago once where we tracked a pursuit, more than 15 years ago, all the way to the border with Tijuana.
Wow.
SkyCal was able to get a signal. This is sort of inside baseball, the transmission signal. SkyCal was able to broadcast a live signal from San Diego, had to get up to about 3,000, 4,000 feet and hit a mountaintop here in Southern California called Mount Wilson. But we were able to do it. And it was one evening, it was a good 15 years ago, we were able to see the lights of southern San Diego during a pursuit. That's a pretty far way to go. SkyCal was actually running out of fuel, had to turn around and come back home on that particular night. But in this case, we never know. This driver seems to be intent on continuing heading southbound. Looking at the map, we are going to make a decision here soon about whether or not they're going to stay either on the 405 or get on the 22. I'm not sure if we've passed that moment yet with SkyCal, but we'll see.
She's making me a little nervous here, moving through some of the congestion. She has not been erratic, I will say that, but there have been some more congestion points, and she's still going about 80 miles per hour. So you do have to wonder if maybe she is, where she's at psychologically, or if she's running out of gas, or those types of things. Moving through some pretty tight spaces there. You see CHP now, though, right behind her once again, and she does seem to now have open road once again in front of her. So again, Mark, you indicated that the driver's mother did call Ventura County Police and provide some information about not having a weapon. As you said, this was called in as a stolen vehicle. However, we don't know how the vehicle was stolen. It was not a carjacking. Doesn't sound like it was anything violent or, that type of thing. But also don't know if there was some type of domestic incident between this woman and a family member. And that's why the mother may know that she doesn't have a weapon. Maybe they were speaking to each other before this all occurred. But boy, you've got wide open road right here.
Yeah, it really is. And again, you had mentioned we know that it's a non-carjacking related stolen vehicle. There's a little bit more information. There is we know that the pursuit started at First and Cochran in the Simi Valley area. But there is some component also now, according to Ventura County Sheriff's, of Thousand Oaks. It's possible that, if I'm reading this correctly, the information that we're getting from the assignment desk, that perhaps the stolen vehicle is out of Thousand Oaks. I'm trying to get a little bit more clarification on that. But the pursuit itself started with Ventura County Sheriff's in the Simi Valley area more than an hour ago, handed off to CHP when it stayed on the freeway for a certain amount of time. That's very common for CHP to take it over. But there are Ventura County Sheriff's units that are following behind. I don't know how far behind or if they're just going to sort of remain in the area, but it is their intention. Ventura County Sheriffs say they do want to be the agency that takes the custody of the suspect and bring them back to the Ventura County area to face charges, certainly of that stolen vehicle, possibly felony evading also, and any other charges that come up during the course of this pursuit, as now we're in the Huntington Beach area with really a strong intent. Now, this driver did not get on the 22. Obviously, they continue to head southbound on the 5. And they're going to have another couple of opportunities here, either to get on the 55 or on the 5 if they continue heading southbound.
It's usually they'll make that decision if there's a lot of traffic, but seeing that there's not a lot of, traffic out there right now, why not, I guess, stay the course if you're the driver and go, okay, I'm just going to see where this ends up taking me. You've been able to make it all the way from Ventura County along the 101 to now the 405 South, as you said, in the Huntington Beach area. She's covered a lot of ground in a relatively short amount of time for this time of day. Yeah,
she's been basically making a straight shot and mostly in the fast lane. Here southbound, we had commented before that she had the opportunities to go into the carpool lane, but avoided that, but seems content to travel what is essentially freeway speeds. I mean, the 405, there's a lot of people that go in the 75 to 80 mile an hour range on the 405 southbound here through Orange County, especially on days like this where it's very open and clear. So CHP just going to stay right behind this driver who, again, has avoided at least 3 separate instances of spike strips.
Right.
So you have to be pretty sharp-eyed to be able to identify those spike strips coming up. This driver is certainly able to identify that on the road, so they're certainly paying attention, and they've been able to maneuver that minivan, which is not a very safe vehicle to swerve at 80 miles an hour.
No.
The center of gravity is pretty high, but this driver was inclined to do that and was able to get out of the way of those spike strips, I believe 3 times. So still 4 intact tires on this minivan. There's video in the Mar Vista area, number 1, then in Inglewood, number 2, they did it, that CHP officer there on the side of the road, and then number 3 again near LAX, where this driver was able to get around those spike strips. So CHP trying their best to disable this minivan with those spike strips. They just weren't able to get it done. That happens sometimes.
I feel like because there isn't a lot of traffic, there's potential issues with that. This isn't a normal flow. To be able to get the spike strips all the way over, in some cases, if the traffic's really slowed down, you can get them out there and make sure they're going to cross over them. And if it's, like this, there's a little less, it's a little tricky. And I think then traffic was trying to slow down with that first attempt on the northbound lanes. That kind of probably southbound drivers went, what's going on, and not, fully paying attention. They got to be careful with how they administer all these types of things. So going to be interesting here just to see, I'm wondering if the mother does have more details. I'm sure the Ventura County Sheriff's Department is trying to get a hold of kind of maybe the mental state here or what had transpired right before, this woman took the minivan and took CHP officers on this pursuit as she just continues to go south. Again, not crossing over into any of the carpool lanes, going about 80 miles per hour, being a relatively stable driver here. And as we've been saying, sometimes the psychology of this, you get past those 3 spike strips, you've got a clear roadway and you think, I'm just going to keep going. Now we'll have to see what her gas situation is, or if there's any other type of issue that ends up happening with the car. But you know, these minivans do have big gas tanks too, so she could potentially have a lot of fuel.
That's very true. Certainly, they have long range. These family vans are designed to be fuel efficient, fuel economy, to go a long way with big gas tanks. I'll tell you, I am listening to the radio traffic. CHP is coordinating with Orange County law enforcement. They're keeping them informed of what's going on as this pursuit passes through the Orange County area. CHP is also coordinating with their own units. They're switching out some of these CHP units that were normally used to patrolling the areas of northern LA County or perhaps central LA County. They are now switching. I can hear them talking about it on their radio frequency, that they're asking Westminster units, which is the office in Orange County, to send some units to take over. These are going to be officers that are more familiar with the Orange County region. It's just going to help those officers be a little bit more familiar in case this driver gets off the freeway. It's just better to have officers that are in their normal area of patrol to be the ones that are involved in this pursuit. They've also switched. This is just sort of an inside bit of data. The CHP is switched to a frequency called their blue frequency, which is a statewide frequency. All CHP officers have access to this. They can hear this. So it's sort of an overarching command channel, which is an indication to me that CHP command believes that this driver may continue to go through jurisdiction after jurisdiction, and they just want ease of communication from whichever CHP unit gets involved here in this pursuit. But we're continuing here southbound, taking a look at the radar. Yeah, we're going to make a decision here. There's a couple of different ways they could go. There's a couple of freeways coming up here, the 73, the 55. It's unclear where this driver's going to go next, Jamie.
Yeah, we've thought, you know, she's had other opportunities to jump on some of the other freeways. We thought maybe she would, but with no traffic on the 405, she seems to just be sticking to that. We now have some overpasses and things, making it a little bit more difficult to see this minivan, but there she is again. It appears going about 80 miles per hour. Yeah, it's interesting. You just wonder if she does have a destination in mind. I guess that would be more information I would want to get from her mom, if she has any friends or family or ties to somewhere in the San Diego area, or if she thinks she's potentially going to Mexico, or where she intends to go to. It seems like when you have talked to these drivers in the past, they think they're going to get away, but with somebody you know, going this far, you have to also wonder if they do have a destination in mind as well.
Yeah, that's true. Again, we really just don't know. They're so far away from where this pursuit started in Ventura. We just don't know. I'm actually hearing some coordination now. An LA County air unit is now overhead. They replaced that LAPD unit in terms of providing that intelligence support. It's unclear how far that LA County Sheriff's helicopter is going to stick with this, and if they're going to switch out with a CHP unit. The CHP helicopter oftentimes flies out of Fullerton. I'm looking on my radar to see where they are. I don't see if they're up right now or not, or if they're on the way. They could have been, excuse me, in a different part of the region. But it looks like we are content to stay on the 405 here. They've passed all of the major interchanges. The next one is going to be, I believe it's called the El Toro Y. It's down by the Irvine Spectrum, that's next. Here in Orange County, in terms of where this driver can go if they're just going to stay on the 405 and transition to the 5. That's going to take him into San Diego, Jamie.
Yeah, you know, and we've been going here now, Mark, for about an hour. We should let people know, you know, it is afternoon now. So if you're just joining us, this has been a pursuit that took place. The details we know is that it started in Ventura County. We know that this is a stolen vehicle. It sounds like it was not a carjacking. There was no, it doesn't sound like there was any violence that took place in taking this particular vehicle. We also know that the mother of the driver, it is a female driver. The mother of the female driver did call Ventura County Sheriff's and asked, let them know that she does not have a weapon inside the vehicle. This is one of only a few times we've seen the driver change lanes at this point in time. This driver, from all intents and purposes, has never entered the carpool lane, is going between 70 and 90 miles per hour on the 405. The 405 has had very little traffic southbound today. So this car started in Ventura County along the 101 and then ended up hitting the 405 southbound and has just been able to continue just going and going. CHP continuing to follow this vehicle. There's been about 3 attempts at spike strips, stop sticks along the freeway. You can see on the right-hand side of your screen there as that car, the minivan swerves. That was the first attempt. This is the second attempt we were able to watch live where an officer had shut down lanes on the 405 trying to get those spike sticks out to have the driver run over. But that's all we know right now, which I do find interesting that an hour into this pursuit, we don't have a little bit more information about the background of this woman, if this potentially this stolen vehicle was maybe the woman was involved in some type of domestic, either with her mother, parents, significant other. We really don't know. We don't know the mental state of this, of the driver at this point in time. We don't know if they've been wanted for other offenses. Right now, we only know that it was a stolen vehicle, but we really don't have many details surrounding how this vehicle was stolen, Mark.
Yeah, that's exactly right. As you mentioned, not a part of a carjacking. Started some component of it started in Thousand Oaks, but the pursuit with Ventura County sheriffs really picked up at First and Cochran in Simi Valley more than an hour ago. It was about 10:50 that Ventura County sheriffs report that they went lights and sirens behind this driver. Vehicle just simply, that minivan driver failed to stop, and then at some point got on the freeway, got to the 405, CHP took it over, and CHP has been the primary agency the entire time. It looks like Orange County sheriffs are not going to join this one as it heads through their community, their jurisdiction. This may jet right through Orange County here in south, through Laguna Woods, Mission Viejo, and onto the 5, which would take it, to San Juan Capistrano, Dana Point, and then out of Orange County, south into the Camp Pendleton area before they get to Oceanside. Again, the freeway totally clear. We're going to see conditions like this the entire way if they continue. This driver continues to head southbound on the 405 here. It's just a great day to be traveling on the freeway. Unfortunately, that is leading CHP to have this pursuit here at pretty high speeds. I mean, 80 miles an hour is freeway speeds. It's about the speed that a lot of the other drivers on the road are, although they're passing by here. I'm sure the drivers are seeing those lights and sirens in their rearview mirror, wondering what's going on. And it's only until after this pursuit has passed by that I'm sure a lot of drivers realize they're looking at it and say, hey, that was just a pursuit that went by us on the left. We apologize for the signal. SkyCal is doing their best to tune into a different mountaintop as we proceed southbound. They are still overhead. This is just an error with the transmission. The chopper has to point a transmitter on the rear of the rear bottom of the helicopter towards one of the many receive sites that we have here in Southern California where we can get live signals in. And sometimes they leave the area of one receive site and have to transition to an area of another receive site. What you're looking at here is video from before. Very briefly, it looks like the operator in SkyCal was able to get that transmission back up and running. So these are live pictures again here as we head southbound through the Laguna Beach area, the Laguna Hills area, I should say, Ladera Ranch, heading into, let's see, where are we? Actually, we're near the Irvine Spectrum.
Okay.
And we're going to be heading into Laguna Woods next.
Well, you start thinking about this area, as you said, if this continues the way that it's been going, and you can see just such little amounts of traffic, I'm really quite surprised that at lunchtime in Orange County there isn't more traffic on the roadway here, especially if we are by the Irvine Spectrum. That can really back up sometimes in that area. If we do start getting close to Camp Pendleton, will there be some issues for SkyCal in terms of continuing to follow this pursuit?
Yes, it's possible. Depending upon what's going on at Camp Pendleton, there is a pretty hard and fast flight restriction for civilian aircraft. Of course, Camp Pendleton, a major Marine base, they use live fire there sometimes. It's a artillery training range as well. So depending upon what is going on at Camp Pendleton, all aircraft, including the law enforcement aircraft overhead, may not be able to go into this area. So this pursuit will be solely operated by the units on the ground there, that primary lead officer, and then CHP also. That's also a CHP unit. You can see SkyCal getting a look at those CHP units. That's a canine. There's a canine unit in this pursuit as well. So in case this driver is a non-compliant or attempts to run, there's going to be a canine unit on scene at the end of this pursuit as well. And these CHP units will continue with this pursuit package all the way. These are now, I believe, Orange County CHP units, so this is their area. They're familiar with it. These are the drivers behind the wheel of those CHP units that are familiar with this area. But you can see this driver now Still 80 miles an hour southbound. I believe we are staying on the 405. We're crossing through the El Toro Y here. This is the Lake Forest, Laguna Woods area. We're going to head into the Mission Viejo area next. But this almost direct southbound route from this driver has gone from the Sepulveda Pass to Mission Viejo in about an hour, Jamie. It's almost like they want to go south in San Diego.
Well, and it's almost as if they knew that there wouldn't be any traffic today, because when you think about a Monday lunchtime being able to go that distance over the course of just 1 hour, I've had 10 miles of that take me an hour at certain times. So I don't know if with Veterans Day being tomorrow, if people took a long weekend or what has transpired here to not have much traffic on the roadway, but you can see this driver too, just pretty intent on continuing to go around 75 miles per hour. What I am finding interesting is that because there isn't that much traffic on the road, sometimes we see, even if it is a minivan, it's not a sports car, but sometimes you will see a driver try to get up to 95, potentially close to 100 miles per hour. She seems to be staying in this range that she must be comfortable with, driving fast, but not erratic and not much past 80 at this point.
Yeah, minivans, they're not the nimblest of vehicles in terms of turning on a dime or stopping on a dime, especially when they're empty. But we haven't seen too many aggressive maneuvers by this driver, except for those 3 instances where she was able to successfully avoid the spike strips that were put down further up north in LA County by those LA County CHP units. But SkyCal, again, getting a good look at that driver, very calm. Now shifted her hands to the lower part of the steering wheel. This is someone who looks like they're just out for a regular drive, very calm. Not like someone who has been in a pursuit for the better part of an hour out of Ventura County at some pretty high speeds. But we know there's no one in the passenger seat. Again, it looked like with SkyCal when they got a look in that passenger seat about 25, 30 minutes ago, there may be a briefcase or a bag of some kind on that passenger seat of this Toyota Sienna minivan. But no other data. You can kind of get a glimpse through the rear windows. Very difficult to see, but don't see any movement back there. CHP is operating under the information that this driver is the only one in this minivan, and it looks to be true so far. I don't see any movement back there, although those windows are tinted pretty heavily. But CHP has to operate on the possibility that there could be other people back there. They don't take any chances. They want the safety of their officers as the first priority. So when they do ultimately approach this van, when it does stop, and they take this driver into custody, they're going to approach that van with the idea that there could possibly be somebody back there. That's just what they have to do.
Yeah, we've seen in the past too where there's potentially animals in the vehicle, and you don't know how that is going to play out if and when this car comes to a stop. Officers have to take a lot into account, especially with not being able to see into that minivan right now and know all the specifics. I'm also surprised we don't have more specifics, or law enforcement doesn't seem to have more specifics on, kind of the background of this driver and potentially why they're trying to get away, why they stole the car. It wasn't a violent carjacking nature. We do know that the mother has called in to law enforcement to say that the driver does not have a weapon. You would assume that she would give some other details as to maybe her daughter, the last time she talked to her, or what her mental state was the last time they spoke. Or we also don't know if maybe this is a family member's minivan, if it's a stolen van at this point in time. But you can see, this driver is very much seems to be locked in on wanting to just continue this pursuit. As you said, with the hands on the steering wheel, it's almost as if the driver has gotten comfortable. Then they know what they're doing, and they know that they are, being pursued, and they're just going to keep going to see how far they can go. And of course, we apologize here. There's a little bit of a breakup with the signal. It looks like we're taking video now from earlier to show you as this pursuit does continue, and we work on trying to get that signal back for you right now, but you can see just video from earlier. We continue to follow this breaking news. Been going on about an hour and 15 minutes where this car did start. It was stolen in Ventura County. This driver now well into Orange County and appears to not be letting up anytime soon. Mark, do you have any new information as we continue to try to get the signal back?
Yeah, again, we apologize. SkyCal is attempting to change the mountaintops that they send their transmission back in order to get that live signal. So that operator, the person who operates that, also happens to be the photographer, the camera person inside of SkyCal. So they're doing a couple of different jobs at once. And as we are proceeding southbound through Orange County, sometimes the receive sites on the mountaintops, they're eclipsed by other mountains. So we don't really have control over where this pursuit is going. The pilot of SkyCal has to follow. And then the operator, the photographer in the back, they have to be the ones to remember where those mountaintops are and make sure that they can point the signal back to the mountaintop that they can see. And as we've transitioned from Ventura County to LA County to Orange County, those mountaintops change as we go south. Now we're back live here. These are live pictures. That operator in SkyCal was able to get that done. It just takes a couple of seconds and some button presses and a little machine that they have up there. The transmitter is now working again, so we've got this. So not a lot has changed in that moment where we weren't able to get a look at that minivan. Well, still southbound, still heading about 75, 80 miles an hour. Now on the 5 freeway, yep, because the 405 stops being the 405 and transitions into the 5 freeway. But we are on our way southbound through the Ladera Ranch area. Next community is San Juan Capistrano, then Dana Point. Then we're getting into San Clemente, and then, as we had talked about, Camp Pendleton, which could be a flight restriction issue. Again, we apologize. We lost that signal. We're still experiencing some problems up there. But this is video from earlier that SkyCal had when it was further up north. And we can see here, or this might be live as well again. Actually, no, this is not live. This is tape. This is video that we had from earlier on the southbound 405. CHP, the primary agency behind this the whole way after taking it over from Ventura County Sheriff as this stolen vehicle pursuit continues to head south, just been on essentially the same freeway the entire time after we picked it up in the Sepulveda Pass. That's when CHP also got it as well around the time from Ventura County Sheriff. So
I've been trying to dig in and find out if the van had a full tank of gas, from the moment that this pursuit started, it looks like a Toyota Sienna minivan can go 630 to 650 miles on one tank of gas. Mm-hmm. So she's got plenty of runway here. If the tank was full, we don't know much information about that. But even if it was half full, you're looking at 300 miles potentially that this car could end up driving. And really at this point, that's the only issue because it doesn't seem like there's any other impact or damage to the minivan, even after 3 spike strip attacks, maneuvers to try to get it to stop. All the windows are intact. The wheels seem to be intact. Everything seems to be functioning correctly. So if she has, even a half a tank of gas, this is going to be going on for quite some time.
Well, that's a great point. Well, I'll join you in the math problem here. You mentioned it's about 600 miles.
I'm not good at math. It might,
yeah.
You'll have to double check me.
Well, this pursuit, it started around 1st and Cochran and Simi Valley, and as we approach San Clemente, that is a total distance traveled of about 107 miles.
Okay.
So if this capacity of the gas tank, as you mentioned, somewhere around 600 miles, I think is what you said, we've at best drained 1/6 of the amount of capacity that this Sienna can hold in terms of its longevity on the road. So based on how much fuel is in the gas tank, this could go for quite some time.
I'm doing the math. It's an 18-gallon tank. If it's, I don't know what year this is, but if it's a 2024 to 2025, Car and Driver says it's an 18-gallon tank. Edmunds rates its fuel economy at 35 to 36 miles per gallon on the highway. I would assume that these are pretty good conditions in terms of getting that type of mileage. So I think my math is right by saying...
it's about 500, 600 miles. Yeah, 600 miles.
Yeah.
Based on, it's always... We could go into a entirely different discussion about EPA estimated fuel mileage per gallon is a little bit optimistic sometimes. I think anyone who drives an American car knows, or any kind of car really in the United States knows is a little optimistic. But yeah, you're right in a sense. We're looking at plus 500 miles on an 18-gallon tank here, and they've only gone about 107. So based on how much fuel is in that minivan, we could be looking at a lot more drive time for this driver. And as I had mentioned it before, sometimes it's not the fuel that runs out, but the willpower of the driver that really runs on empty when a lot of drivers that are involved in pursuits make that realization that they are not going to get away. There's a certain fatigue level that strikes a lot of drivers. We have seen where they've basically tried everything that they can to get away, and there's that realization that one law enforcement agency or another is going to take them into custody in the very near future, and that's when they give up. CHP is hoping for that outcome, that this driver comes to their senses and realizes they're not going to be able to get away, and that they end this peacefully. They can pull over at any time, even on the side of the freeway. They don't have to get off the freeway. CHP will take them into custody. I think CHP officers would prefer that they get off and get onto a surface street and stop. But if it has to stop in the middle of the freeway, we have seen many, many, many times drivers being taken into custody in lanes of traffic on the 5 or the 405 freeway. And hopefully we don't get something like a standoff like we had the last couple of pursuits where people blocked the entire freeway. And CHP, I think the last one that we had, I'm trying to go back, it was just maybe last week where they actually fired a beanbag round through the passenger side to take a man into custody who had stopped on the 101, I believe it was, in Hollywood. So hopefully we don't see something like that here, but CHP is always prepared to do that if they have to bring the suspect into custody.
You know, I hear you on the fatigue, but I'm watching, you know, as SkyCal's been able to push in, you know, through the windshield and see the driver's hands. I mean, she appears to have gotten more relaxed. She went from kind of a strict kind of 10 and 2 position to then just kind of relaxed underneath the steering wheel, you know, going about 80 miles per hour, sticking to her lane, not driving very erratically, not getting in the carpool lane. And we still have not seen her get into any type of carpool lane at this point. You know, this has been a relatively tame pursuit for all intents and purposes, with not much traffic on the 101, the 405, and now the 5.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, other than felony evading, there's really not a lot of moving violations, reckless driving going on here with this driver. They're behaving as just about any other driver on the 405, going about 80 miles an hour. That's a pretty regular speed here, 70, 75 to 80. You see that a lot on the 405, certainly on a clear, dry day where there's not a lot of traffic. And not a lot of aggressive lane switching other than to avoid spike strips. So there's not an inherent, a huge amount of danger in the way that this driver, this woman, is sort of engaging in this pursuit, but we really just don't know. She certainly has shown a propensity to do what it takes to get away from police, to get away from CHP by avoiding those spike strips, and certainly not acknowledging the lights and sirens that have been behind her minivan for more than an hour now through 3 counties in Southern California and several law enforcement agencies. So CHP knows that. Hopefully they have some information that they believe hopefully is credible from a family member that this person is not armed, but they can't take that 100%. They're going to be absolutely sure. They're going to draw their weapons and give commands to this driver to step out of the vehicle facing away from officers and get down on their knees or on their stomach to be taken into custody. And again, they believe that there's nobody else in this minivan, but they can't be 100% sure. Those windows are tinted. They will treat this minivan as having other people in it when they take that driver into custody. But really, the goal here is either to get that driver to surrender peacefully. They may try another spike strip. I don't see them doing any sort of efforts to do any sort of a pit maneuver here. These speeds are far too high to do a pit maneuver. They're looking at about 35 to 40 miles an hour for a successful pit maneuver. This is also kind of a high-profile vehicle to do a pit maneuver. They don't want this minivan rolling. It's possible they could do it, but it's a little bit more dangerous with a high-profile vehicle like this.
Well, when you say high-profile, we should tell people it's a very heavy vehicle, so that if it ends up rolling or rolling into other people or cars or that type of thing, you're looking at a lot of damage and potential, you know, injury with this type of vehicle. They're also, you know, minivans are known that when they roll, that can severely hurt the person inside because they are somewhat top heavy.
They are. The center of gravity is high in a minivan. Now we are proceeding through the San Clemente area, so we are possibly going to come up against a flight restriction in the Camp Pendleton area. It's unclear what that's going to be. Camp Pendleton sometimes can let us through. It all depends upon what's going on. We can skirt the coastline sometimes. It all depends upon what the situation is with the pilots, the weather condition, and what's going on with Camp Pendleton. So we are now at the very southern end of Orange County as the 405 goes into that region on the western side of Camp Pendleton, and then you pop out on the other side in Oceanside, which is essentially San Diego County.
And we haven't learned anything else about how this started other than this is a stolen vehicle, and that's really all we know at this point in time.
Yeah, non-carjacking related stolen vehicle. That really was the only charge here. Nothing else other than, of course, felony evading. They may get some reckless driving charges here as well, but the original warrant was just for a stolen vehicle, and we really don't have anything beyond that. The Ventura County sheriffs have not shared anything beyond that, and that it was the component of this started in Thousand Oaks, and then the pursuit really began in earnest at First and Cochran in the Simi Valley area at about 10:50 this morning.
Yeah, it's a little surprising. We're at about an hour, or coming up on an hour and a half of this, and the amount of ground this driver has been able to cover is very impressive for a Monday at lunchtime, and it's due just really to the light traffic flow. These are the moments that I find interesting where she comes up on a bit of traffic. She does slow down. She isn't often changing lanes. You now see her starting to speed up a little bit. Is that correct that we're okay about 80 miles per hour? I don't know if something got a little out of whack there. It's at 136. I think we got a little little technical
I'll
issue.
tell you what the way that speedometer works is a little bit of technology here. There's actually it's a laser that is basically sensing the movement of the ground as wherever the laser is pointing.
Gotcha.
So if you happen to be pointing at something that's going very fast, you're going to get a slightly different speed. So you can see right now the speedometer is off the charts because we're moving very quickly across the ground.
Okay, that makes a lot more. I'm glad you explained that because that makes a lot more sense to me now.
Right. So that's essentially what it is. It really is only accurate when SkyCal has a stable shot of the vehicle in question. Now, we may be approaching, you can see now the GPS tells us we are at the boundary of Camp Pendleton. There's also some weather coming in. There looks like there is some cloud cover in the area too, which is going to complicate matters. Now, looking at the radar here, I'm going to see if there's any law enforcement airships overhead. Let's see, I see, yes, Orange County sheriffs have taken over from LA County sheriffs. Orange County sheriffs has one, has one of their airships overhead. Unclear how far they are going to head south, but CHP officers, again, right behind this Toyota Sienna minivan as it continues south. We are in the Camp Pendleton area. It's possible now that our pilot was given permission to fly south, which means we can stay with this for just a little bit longer here.
Well, you see, this is always such a beautiful drive. To go through, but it's a little less congested as well. As you said, the fog there, but you're going along the coastline of Camp Pendleton. And you said you were looking at the traffic situation. It's this free and clear through San Diego, which is also unusual for this time of day. But if this driver can continue, I guess, Mark, I don't know, what happens if they go to try to cross over into Tijuana?
Well, they're not going to cross the border. That's not. I mean, the border.
So that would be the stopping point.
There's virtually no way. I mean, the San Ysidro border crossing is heavily fortified. There are multiple barriers there that can go up. There's also federal law enforcement there that are armed with very heavy weaponry. They are not going to allow someone involved in a pursuit to cross. Certainly not at the San Ysidro border crossing. Perhaps if there is some other border crossing further to the east, but they're not going to get into Tijuana through San Ysidro. It's just not possible. There's also a huge amount of traffic usually there heading southbound.
Right.
All of those lanes usually have lines of cars.
Yes, I know.
So it's just not going to happen. It's virtually physically impossible to get through there, to force your way through there, I should say. There's no way that this minivan driver could force their way that I can imagine through the San Ysidro border crossing, simply because there would probably be the use of deadly force on on the part of Border Patrol. Someone tried that. And that goes for both directions right there as well. Anyone that's crossed through San Ysidro knows the layers of protection there. But certainly this person could head into the city of San Diego. There's multiple options. There's a couple of other freeways I'm not as familiar. There's a 78, I think, that comes to, eastbound off of the 405 in the Carlsbad area. And looking at the map, there's also some other freeways down there. The Ted Williams Freeway, I think it's called the 56, also heads eastbound. And heads into the Poway area and into the Escondido area. So it's unclear if this driver is familiar with San Diego County or not, if they are purposefully heading down there because this is their area that they're familiar with, or again, they're just, we are seeing another quick move. That there might have been another spike strip there. There was a very purposeful move by this driver, and it happened to coincide with a break in the center median, which I see CHP has oftentimes pulled their vehicles into that break in order to give some shelter to their officers. So going back, we may have to look at that video. That may have been a fourth spike strip attempt on this driver this morning. I should say this late morning here, this afternoon at 12:30, as this pursuit has now gone into past the 90-minute mark as it heads southbound.
Yeah, it's been pretty incredible to watch this play out. I was asking about the border crossing, thinking if they had in their mind maybe they would try to force their way, because we haven't seen this person make any attempt to stop or get off or even change freeways at this point. You just have to wonder what is in the back of their mind as to what their plan is. And you would think that at some point here, especially as you're in front of Camp Pendleton at this point, that you have to start making some type of plan, I would think. Obviously when we've covered these pursuits before, we've talked to drivers later where the fight or flight kicks in. They believe they're going to be able to get away, but at a certain point here, I would think you'd have to start going, well, what am I going to do? I am going to run up on this border crossing with federal law enforcement and a very fortified building. Am I going to get off in San Diego? We don't know if she does have any ties to San Diego. Does she know the area of San Diego? She has to. We haven't brought this up either, Mark. She obviously knows that CHP officers are following her at this point in time on the roadway, but she has to see the helicopters. We took that wide shot for a minute, and you could see there were other helicopters in the air, including law enforcement, that she has to know that she is being followed. She obviously was trying to get out of the way of some of these stop sticks and spike strips. She knows that they are trying to stop her. You just have to wonder what is the end game for someone like this, and not knowing her background, not knowing, a family member did call in that she doesn't have a weapon, but not knowing if there's been any mental health challenges with this person, if there's drug use, if there are other, potential issues that are just keeping this person going, and they don't care that they have a plan. I guess, there's just so much information we don't know at this point in time.
First comment I want to make is we are about 70 miles to the north now of San Ysidro. So, at this speed, we're going to hit that in less than an hour. Secondly, there are 5 airships following this. There is 1 law enforcement airship and 4 media airships. So it's very possible, too, you could roll down your window even at freeway speeds and hear the thumping of the rotor blades above you at this time. But this pursuit continuing now through the Camp Pendleton area. And we're about to pop out on the other side of Camp Pendleton into the Oceanside area here, which will be San Diego County.
Yeah, well, we'll continue to watch that, right, to see what transpires there. You can see she is still going about 90 miles per hour, and there's still not much in terms of traffic out there to potentially stop her at this point. But of course, I think we're watching this in a little bit of astonishment that she's been able to take up as much freeway space as she has. When you think about just leaving Ventura County an hour and a half ago, I mean, I don't know how many times it's taken me an hour and a half to get from Ventura County just to the 405. If there's any type of accident or mishap or, spill on the roadway or any of those types of things, weather problems. So to be able to get this far, to go from, the Simi Valley area to Camp Pendleton, really, and now potentially on the other side of that, entering the San Diego area. It would be nice to know if we need to start watching to see if she does get off somewhere, if she has any ties to the San Diego area. As you and I have covered these before, Mark, it is always something that comes up where drivers do go to places they know. This seems like a very long way to go, or maybe it's just trying to potentially get out of, and get away from law enforcement. She thinks that she will be able to outrun them at some point in time, but again, has pretty consistently driven between 70 and 90 miles per hour. You can see going 83, 84. Again, not getting into a carpool lane, passing other vehicles on the roadway who I'm sure are seeing the lights and sirens behind. But they're, in terms of other danger, it has been relatively smooth, which is a good thing. We just are unclear right now her background, and as you said a little bit earlier, these windows are tinted. There's no indication anyone else is in the car with her, but law enforcement just doesn't know. And I feel like the more they don't know, the longer this can end up going as well.
Yeah, Jamie, so just got a little bit more information from the Ventura County Sheriffs. They're describing this vehicle as being taken from East Hillcrest Drive in the Thousand Oaks area. That's near the 23 and the 101. It's a neighborhood in that area. Really no further information about that, but you can see here as this vehicle continues southbound on the 405. To recap, this pursuit started just about 10:50 this morning when the Ventura County Sheriffs got the report that there was a stolen vehicle on Hillcrest. They were able to catch up with it essentially in the Simi Valley area at First Street and Cochran. That's when they say that the woman who was behind the wheel of this Toyota Sienna minivan refused to pull over. So Ventura County Sheriffs, they went into pursuit. This vehicle got onto the 101 and then got to the 405. At some point, the CHP officers in Ventura County took it over, and it transitioned to LA County CHP officers who followed it all the way south to the Sepulveda Pass, past LAX, past the South Bay, Long Beach, through Orange County on the 405. Really the same kind of behavior the entire time for the entire 90 minutes of this pursuit. This driver staying mostly in the fast lane at least 4 different times, avoiding spike strips put out by CHP officers who at some points stopped traffic on the northbound 405 in order to get out of their CHP units and position those spike strips at the center divider and then throw them into the left lane. Now, each of those 4 times, this driver was able to avoid those spike strips, which is a pretty big achievement, being that this driver was going about 80 miles an hour each time, and was able to spot those spike strips in those lanes and maneuver that Sienna around those spike strips. So 4 failed attempts by CHP. Those were high-risk attempts anyway. There was a lot of maneuverability on the 405 at that time for that driver, so they were able to get around each time. So CHP is settling into their standard methodology of how they handle pursuits like this by continuing to stay behind this driver. It's been allied law enforcement airships overhead. At one point, it was LA County Sheriff's helicopter overhead. There was the LAPD that was overhead, and now Orange County Sheriff's. I'm going to check the radar again and see, yeah, sure enough, Orange County Sheriff's now progressing south all the way through the airspace of Camp Pendleton to maintain intelligence eye contact on this driver to assist their CHP colleagues in giving them air support to make sure that this driver does not get out of view, although it doesn't seem like this driver has made very many erratic maneuvers to try to get off of the freeway or really try to evade these CHP officers in an aggressive way, simply just driving straight and narrow on the 405 southbound for the better part of 90 minutes as this driver is now entering the Oceanside area. Jamie, we have traveled more than 110 miles here from the initial starting point in Simi Valley area, and even beyond that when it was originally taken in that neighborhood on East Hillcrest Drive in the Thousand Oaks area, as this driver just intent on heading south as fast as they can, as quickly as they can. They made a beeline using the primary freeways to essentially get now into northern San Diego County.
Yeah, and as I've been talking about, you just have to wonder, does she know, these roadways really well? Did she know that traffic was going to be this light? Did she know that she would be able to, clear as much mileage as she has at this point in time? I mean, these are all questions we won't know, until they're able to secure her. But it doesn't. I mean, look at how empty this roadway is. That this driver has, so much runway here, really, to try to get away. As you were just saying, I've also it's been interesting to watch just how she went from kind of, hands at 10 and 2 to now kind of a relaxed driving style. Has not been erratic, but it's just the traffic is so light. She's been able to really cover so much ground here in just an hour and 20 minutes. Or let's see, it happened at, did you say 10:50? 10:50, so almost 2 hours.
Yeah, almost 2 hours now. We're going to be coming up on the 2-hour mark here. And it's funny, as the entire time that we have been covering this pursuit, I've been listening to the radio traffic in my ear from the various CHP channels. It's gone from the Ventura to the LA County channel, then into the blue, which is the statewide channel, and now into what's called the gray channel, which is in Orange County, Westminster. And even the CHP officers are not really communicating that much anymore because there's not much to communicate here. This driver has simply maintained a fairly standard 80 miles an hour throughout the entire pursuit in the same lane. So there's occasionally radio traffic from the Orange County Sheriff's helicopter just copying the direction of travel and the off-ramps that they're passing to make sure that everybody involved in the pursuit and also the commanders back at base know where this is. But other than that, there's not too much more to communicate as CHP is waiting for this driver to simply realize they're not going to get away and to change their posture here and perhaps give up. But you can see now for the first time, I had mentioned that there's a little bit of slowing in Oceanside. I never thought we'd actually get there to see it, but here we are. This is that bit of yellow that I had talked about an hour ago, that Oceanside had a little bit of traffic, and there's actually a moment of red here that's coming up. They may be in this now, hard right into the very right lane here behind a big rig. And this is right near where this red is getting off on Oceanside Boulevard here. Well,
and that's what's interesting, right? Because we haven't had one of these moments yet in this pursuit that we've been able to watch. So we don't know how she's going to handle this particular situation. It looks like she may be trying to get off.
Spike strips again, but they missed. It looked like they missed.
Good point there, Mark. And now she's getting back on. She was able to get around some of those semi-trucks. But yes, they had an opportunity there, and she did get right around it. It looked like maybe she would try to get off. Apparently, we do have someone from the Ventura County Sheriff's Department on the phone. Robert Use is with us. Robert, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about, we know that this all originated in Ventura County. Do we know anything more about the driver other than she's female and that her mother called in to say that she doesn't have any type of weapon?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the issue with the mother. I can just tell you that this morning at about 10:34, we received a phone call of a stolen vehicle. Person reported it having been taken by a female subject. Approximately 20 minutes later, one of our units from our Moore Park station found the vehicle as it was traveling eastbound on the 118, right around the borderline where the cities of Moore Park and Simi Valley come together. And then a pursuit was initiated when the driver failed to yield. And our units pursued it all the way down to the southbound 405, where ultimately we turned it over to CHP.
To CHP. So do we know, you don't know about the family member calling in. Do we know, we heard that this wasn't a carjacking that took place or that there was any violence. Do we know if this is a family member's vehicle or anything about how this car was stolen?
I don't have a lot of details on that other than to say, no, it was taken from a non-family member.
It was taken from...
called it. Yeah, they're not related.
Are they? Is there a friendship there or any type of domestic?
I don't know what the connection is.
Is there a connection?
Like I said, I believe the owner of the vehicle does know the individual in question. However, I don't know exactly what the relationship is.
Gotcha. So this could be one of those situations where the two of them maybe got into some type of argument. We don't know. And the car was taken, but it wasn't taken in a violent way. Do we know if there are any connection? Do we know more information about the driver, first of all?
I don't have that currently, any information in regards to that individual. And like I said, because this is still an ongoing and developing situation, I'm sure that the units are handling the initial stolen vehicle report, are probably gathering some of that information, but I have not been briefed on that.
I want to bring in my colleague, Mark Liu, who's been watching this and listening to the radio traffic to see. Mark, is there anything you'd like to
Yeah,
ask?
Captain, do you know, are there still Ventura County Sheriff's units in this pursuit? I mean, it's gone all the way through LA County, through Orange County, now we're entering San Diego County. Do you still have deputies that are in this pursuit behind CHP, or have they all returned to Ventura County?
So we have 2 units that are trailing the pursuit with the intention of taking the individual into custody when they're stopped.
Have you seen this type of behavior before, and how has it been? How does this come to a conclusion?
Well, like I said, each one is individual. Like I can't, tell you individually why people choose to run from law enforcement. It's for a variety of reasons, and obviously, as I'm sure you're well aware, these unfortunately end in a lot of different ways. We're hoping that she will ultimately just yield to the units and be taken into custody, and that'll be the end of it. But like I said, the rest of it, it's just dependent upon how the situation unfolds.
Also, Captain, do you know, is the driver the only one did you have information that there's anyone else in that van?
I am unaware of any other individual being inside the vehicle aside from the driver.
Is the person who had their vehicle stolen, are they being cooperative about this situation and offering any more information?
Again, like I said, all I know is that they reported it to our agency, so that level of cooperation was present. As far as anything above and beyond that, I would be speculating on that.
And we don't know if there's any mental illness or drug use or any other background, or if there could be potentially a weapon?
Again, I don't have any information to indicate anything of that nature, like I said. But again, I don't know what information is being gathered from the victim in this case, nor any communications that anyone's having with any of her family members.
For those tuning in who, maybe live in the Los Angeles area, when you talk about the Moore Park, Simi Valley kind of line there, it's very family friendly. It's a little quiet sometimes. Is this something that's surprising to you that originated there?
Well, again, like I said, unfortunately, though areas such as that are traditionally known for having a lower crime rate, we still do have crimes that occur, of this type of nature, and obviously we do our best to prevent them and also just preserve the peace.
Yeah. When CHP took this over, was there any discussion of Ventura County sheriffs, the 2 that are trailing? Were they going to be? Do you think that they would actively participate during this driver being taken into custody, or is this going to be primarily a CHP handle at the end of this pursuit?
I'm assuming that CHP will have the proper number of units to effect the arrest if and when this person stops. As far as our units going down, like I said, right now it's just as a advisory role, and then also potentially to bring this person back to Ventura County.
Yeah. Do you know how long Ventura County sheriffs were in pursuit of this van before it was handed off to CHP?
Unfortunately, I don't have that information. Like I said, it started eastbound 101. They started eastbound 118, which took it to the southbound 405, and then it was handed off to CHP, I believe, somewhere shortly after the 101-405 interchange.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you, Captain. I mean, this pursuit has really gone on for quite some distance. I mean, we're looking at more than 100 miles now that this driver has refused to give up to multiple different agencies as they progress now here into central San Diego County. So hopefully this will come to an end with this driver surrendering peacefully. We've seen multiple attempts at spike strips here being used by the CHP, but we really haven't really seen any aggressive or violent action on the part of this driver. Your deputies, when they were involved in this pursuit, they didn't see anything particularly violent from this driver at the time, like no attempts to ram deputies or any weapons seen that you're aware of, right?
No, nothing that's been relayed to me in regards to that. I'm unaware of that. Obviously, the main concern is their failure to yield, and then at times the speed at which the vehicle is traveling. Obviously, that is unsafe.
Yeah, of course, certainly any driver that is refusing to obey the commands of any law enforcement agent or deputy, it needs to be considered the possibility that they could be resisting arrest at that point. But yeah, I mean, we've been following this pursuit with SkyCal here for the better part of almost 2 hours now, and this driver has really just progressed in a southbound direction at speeds of about 80 miles an hour the entire time. It's unclear what the driver's intent is to be heading south here, if they are somehow familiar with the San Diego area or if they're just trying to get away. You don't have any intel about any familiarity that this driver may have in regions south of Thousand Oaks or Simi Valley, do you?
Unfortunately, I do not.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I want to bring in now the CBS LA anchor Ross Palumbo here, who's joining us. Ross, what we're looking at here is a pursuit that started over 2 hours ago now here in the Simi Valley area after Ventura County Sheriff's got a report of a stolen vehicle in the Thousand Oaks area. Ventura County Sheriff's deputies attempted to take this driver into custody, tried to conduct a traffic stop, but this driver refused to comply and is now headed southbound, as I had mentioned, for more than 100 miles on the 405, from the 118 to the 405, now to the 5, as we have passed through Camp Pendleton and are now in the San Diego area.
You know, it's amazing that this pursuit has been going on across these 3 counties for coming up on 2 hours now. And Captain, I know that you tried to address this earlier, but we did receive information that the driver, the female driver of this van, did speak with a family member who did speak with the Ventura County Sheriff's Department, saying that there was no one else in the van and that this person was unarmed. In the space that we've had since you've been on the line with us, is there any update to that information? Clearly that's of top concern to CHP right now.
Again, I don't have any personal knowledge of what you're relaying to me. That would be something I'd have to look into. But I would imagine that any information that we have that's relevant to this situation would be communicated to the California Highway Patrol so that they're very well aware of it as well.
I mean, such a dangerous situation here. They've been driving at speeds around 80 miles an hour, evading spike strips, Mark, some 4 times so far. And I guess the big question is, now that we're getting closer into San Diego County here near Encinitas, it begs the question, is it even possible, Captain, maybe you can help us understand this. I think we may be changing choppers here to our partners in San Diego to get a better shot, but maybe you can help us. What is the possibility of them even shutting down the southbound lanes there up ahead to try to head off this driver?
Again, I can't comment on the tactics that the California Highway Patrol uses during their pursuits, or rather even what happens if this individual were to reach the border, as far as how that situation would be handled. I mean, it'd be up to those individual agencies to make that decision and that call.
Yeah, it's obviously a very complicated situation right now. If you're just joining us, this pursuit started at around 10:54 this morning. We're almost exactly 2 hours in. This is a car that was stolen in Thousand Oaks. This person has been pursued through Ventura County, all the way through LA County, all the way through Orange County, and is now near Encinitas. There have been 4 attempts to stop the car with spike strips. At least one of those we saw here on the air, where the driver just got out of the carpool lane and managed to evade the CHP. Several agencies involved, but primarily CHP at this time. And Mark, this has been going on so long, and it's clear sailing ahead. As you can see, not heavy traffic. It's really hard to see how this car is going to be stopped without anything short of shutting down some of these lanes.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, actually, Ross, we believe there may have been a 5th spike strip attempt just a short time ago, when this driver made an aggressive move all the way to the right side of the freeway to avoid some traffic in the Oceanside area. Unfortunately, that 5th attempt was also unsuccessful. CHP doing their best to try to take out some of the tires on this Toyota Sienna minivan, but it's always a dangerous proposition. It puts a great risk on the officers of any law enforcement agency, the deputies and officers involved, when they try and do that. It doesn't always succeed, but it is one of the pursuit tactics that officers are trained in doing. It just so happens in this case they haven't been able to be successful. Yeah. But this pursuit now heading southbound on the 405, I mean, I should say the 5, had been on the 405 for more than an hour And now we are seeing actually, this is a picture from a media airship from San Diego. One of our sister stations in San Diego is also providing this image here from the other side of the freeway of this Toyota Sienna minivan with that woman behind the wheel, still proceeding southbound at freeway speeds here, about 80 miles an hour, as they've continued on this very deliberate path south from the Ventura County area where this all started just before 11 o'clock this morning. But, you know, we've been talking to Ventura County Sheriff's Captain about how this all started. Simply a stolen vehicle report taken in a neighborhood, I believe on Hillcrest Drive. The pursuit then was picked up by the CHP after it got on the freeway, and it's been the CHP the entire time. You know, we were also discussing the possibility of what happens inevitably, Ross, when this driver comes up against the San Ysidro border crossing. I mean, that's ultimately where the 5 freeway goes. I cannot imagine there's virtually zero chance that this driver would somehow make it through the border crossing. It's such a congested area virtually at all hours of the day, with an extremely heavy both local and federal law enforcement presence down there. So the southbound direction of this minivan cannot last forever. There are certainly other opportunities for this driver to change direction, especially when they head through central San Diego, Metro San Diego. That city has virtually as many freeways in the metro area as we do here in Southern California, in Los Angeles. But this driver has really just made this general southbound direction, staying in the fast lane, continuing at these speeds. And when SkyCal has zoomed in on the driver, we've seen a very calm-looking driver with their hands at 10 and 2 at some points, even sometimes gripping the bottom of the steering wheel, almost like they're on a casual drive. So really no urgency on the part of this driver to surrender. And Jamie and I had been doing some back-of-the-envelope math. This is an 18-gallon tank on Toyota Sienna.
Right? So sooner or later, this Sienna is going to run out of gas.
Yeah, but really, just in the course of this pursuit, it's been about 110, 120 miles. And the back of the envelope math, this could have over 500 miles in a full gas tank. So it's really not going to be an issue of running out of gas. I think it's going to be an issue of running out of willpower, either physical or mental willpower, to continue this pursuit.
You know, and it's so hard to know. We've gotten a little information, we believe, from family members, again, that this person is unarmed and no one else is in the van. But the van is stolen. We don't know the emotional state of the person inside. Clearly, they have no intention of stopping, and it's that unpredictability driving down more than 160 miles of freeway that's concerning and the most dangerous right now. I mean, we've seen, if we can re-cue those close-ups of the attempts by CHP to throw out the spike strips and really slow them down, they just haven't had any luck. And those maneuvers themselves are dangerous. I think that we'd spoken earlier, I'd heard you speak, Mark, about there's just no chance of a pit maneuver at anything over 30, 40 miles an hour. And you see at least CHP is right there behind them as they speed through all this traffic. Right now they're in still on the 5 South. And you're right, Mark. I mean, they're going to get to a critical point soon enough.
Yeah, so what you're seeing here on the right side of your screen are the moments in the last 2 hours that SkyCal has captured of the multiple attempts of CHP officers attempting those spike strips being thrown into lanes. You can see right here, this driver had moved all the way to the right. You know, when I've spoken to law enforcement officers, this is one of the most dangerous things that they engage in during a pursuit. They're essentially putting themselves outside of their vehicle in front of a driver that's trying to escape, sometimes at very high speeds, and it takes a lot of bravery, courage, and skill in order to get that spike strip positioned correctly, thrown out directly in front of that driver. So a lot of times they like to hopefully get themselves into a position where they have some cover. We've seen the CHP officers do that from the cover of the center divider, but it's still an inherently very dangerous operation that shows the bravery and the professionalism of the CHP and any law enforcement agency that asks their officers or deputies to do this. They're very highly trained. explained. But it is a very quick way to bring a pursuit to an end, as you can deflate those tires, cause that vehicle to become undrivable and ultimately disabled. In this particular case, it hasn't worked well. You had mentioned the pit maneuver. Freeway speeds usually a little bit too high to do a pit maneuver. That can send that vehicle spinning wildly out of control. Also, the center of gravity a little bit higher on a minivan. That also factors into whether or not a pit maneuver would be possible. Perhaps if they got off the freeway and were able to bring those speeds down a little bit closer to the 40 or 30 mile an hour mark, if they had an open area, they could do it. They may attempt it with this vehicle, but again, that's something that CHP, the lead officer in that CHP pursuit, is going to have to communicate to their supervisors about whether or not it's appropriate. We haven't seen any sort of opportunity yet to do that, as this pursuit has essentially remained at over 80 miles an hour on the 405 or the 5 the entire time, Ross.
You know, it's impossible to really understand what is going through this person's mind. Mark, we talk about this all the time. There is no chance this person is not going to be brought into custody at this point, going across 3 counties, evading and endangering police officers and the public, driving this stolen car, this stolen Sienna minivan. It just really defies reason. It's been a long time since we've seen one go this far for this long. We are about, 2 hours, 10 minutes now. If you're just joining us, this pursuit began in Thousand Oaks, with authorities chasing them there. This is a stolen van. There is a female driver inside. We believe that she has contacted a family member and said the family member has called authorities and said that there is no one else inside the van, that this person is unarmed. And that's the long and short of it. That's all the information we have. It has been going on now from Thousand Oaks through Ventura County, through Los Angeles County, through all of Orange County, and now in San Diego County, as you see here at University City. It's to the point now where our partners in San Diego are also picking up the coverage and covering this live wall to wall. In fact, we have their chopper as well above the scene, so we can continue to receive these pictures. As Mark Liu was describing, there have been, we believe now, 5 attempts to stop this with spike strips, none of which clearly have worked. We don't believe a pit maneuver is at all possible at these speeds. This is a little slower she's going now. Well, here we go back up again into the 80s. That's mostly what we've seen. But the center of the gravity, that being very high in a minivan, the speeds that this person is traveling, that's just not possible. Since the traffic has been relatively clear this time of day, they've really just had the path to keep going and keep going. And Mark, let's talk a little bit about what might be coming up ahead here, causing a slowdown for this driver and maybe more of a chance for authorities to move in.
Right. Well, I have been looking very closely at the traffic in and around the San Diego area, and I'll tell you, it's pretty green. There's not a lot of traffic on these freeways here. We're currently on one called the 805, and I'm going to be looking here. If you're not familiar with it, the 805 will take you essentially through central San Diego. It parallels the 5 freeway. The 5 freeway is a little bit further to the west, gets closer to the bay, to San Diego Bay. The 805 more to the east and also parallels the 5 south. It will also take you straight south through Chula Vista, then down into the San Ysidro border crossing. But the 805 does look like it's pretty clear. There's really not a lot of traffic coming up. There's some traffic on the northbound side, but on the southbound side, this driver is looking at a clear freeway and clear skies all the way down to southern San Diego. So really, CHP, again, not going to get really any sort of assistance in the form of traffic. Not necessarily that they want that, because that can only add more civilians into the mix in terms of danger. It does slow down the pursuit, but I believe that any law enforcement officer will tell you they would rather have as many civilians out of the way as possible when engaging with a driver who is refusing to be taken into custody. But as far as pursuits go, Ross, you and I have covered many of these over the course of our time here at CBS. This one is really approaching a record as to how far south we have been able to follow with SkyCal. I can tell you that it was probably about 15 or 17 years ago. I can remember there was, when I worked the night shift, there was a pursuit that made it all the way to the border. And I can remember we saw the lights of Tijuana with SkyCal. We may be experiencing something like that again. SkyCal is able to provide that transmitter signal to a mountaintop back here in Southern California, so we can see these live pictures. I should say the mountaintop here in the greater LA area, so we can see these live pictures. But this is pretty far south. We usually do not have pursuits that go this far, especially when they start so far north in the Ventura County area, Ross.
Well, this one already in Sierra Mesa right now. So what are we talking about? More than 163 miles, I believe, as the crow flies, to get to this point. We do know, as we were talking about earlier, that this Toyota minivan has an 18-gallon gas capacity. So we believe, if you do the math, more than 400 miles. So still a ways to go, but we believe the van is stolen. That's certainly how it was called out by Ventura County Sheriff's Department. And who knows how much gas is in there? Hopefully not much more. That
would be a very great way that the CHP would hope that this pursuit comes to an end when the vehicle essentially disables itself because it has no more gasoline in it. That would be a great way to get this to stop. Of course, you still have the problem, as any CHP officer will tell you, of getting that driver to peacefully throw out the keys, open the door, and surrender. And with this driver, we just don't know the mental state that they're in. They have certainly shown a great amount of determination in driving all the way from what is essentially the Thousand Oaks area here to San Diego. Anyone in Southern California who has made that trip south, either for a business or a vacation, you just know it starts to get exhausting. You have to take a break after all of this. And any driver that's done it has done it without the CHP lights and sirens behind them. So there is a physical and mental fatigue that begins to set in with drivers that have been evading for this amount of time. Hopefully the CHP officers in this pursuit can use that to their advantage to hopefully convince this driver to surrender. But again, the 805 continues to be open and ahead of this driver as I'm checking the radar here now. We are approaching a place called North Heights. This is City of San Diego proper now. Exactly. So we are essentially in the San Diego metro area as we pass through here now into our fourth county. We've been in now our fourth county, Ventura, LA, Orange, and San Diego.
Well, and what's going to come into play now is as they're getting closer and closer to the downtown proper, now we have all sorts of options to get off the 805 here and take another route, perhaps turn around, because it's hard to imagine that this driver has any hope of going much further, or farther, I should say, south in San Diego.
Yeah, that's right. There's an opportunity here. I believe it's the 15. They call it the Escondido Freeway. They could also take that direction south, which would then merge them with a freeway called the 94, which heads east and west. But otherwise, if they continue to head south, they're going to head right by the Naval Base San Diego. That's coming up. And they'll go through National City. But I'm getting a little bit worried now, Ross, that perhaps this driver does intend to go to San Ysidro, which could end problematically for the driver here. There is no way that they would be able to head further south than that.
You know, and we've seen before when we get more into the metro area and we see the major overpasses, that's often an area where someone will stop and try to bail, make a run for it. Those are things that usually happen more at night. They think they have the cover, that the chopper can't see them, and they're going to just get away. But it seems unlikely at these speeds and how this driver has been racing away. All we know about the driver is that it is a female driver, that this minivan was stolen in Thousand Oaks. A family member allegedly telling authorities that she's alone and unarmed. But as for her state of mind, we really don't know. I mean, clearly criminal to be leading a chase like this. But I have to say, Mark, you know, driving consistently, certainly this is a dangerous situation, and this is felony evasion, but fortunately, because it's been on the highway, we haven't seen anyone outside of a car except for CHP officers risking their lives trying to throw out the stop sticks, the spike strips. But we're fortunately not on the side streets where people are walking and there's even more danger. There's some good news in all of this as this goes in, 2 hours and 20 minutes at this point.
Yeah, so there are a couple of logistical issues that we are also dealing with here as we head south further and further into the San Diego area. SkyCal may have to depart here for fuel. So what you're seeing here is SkyCal actually turning away. They may be heading over. I can see they're now making an eastbound turn towards the La Mesa area. There's going to be a local airport that SkyCal is going to have to land for. SkyCal only has about 2 hours and 20 minutes of fuel in the tank, and they are using all of it to head south. So the CHP, though, is continuing to follow this. I do see that now the San Diego County Sheriff's Department has taken over the duties of being the airship overhead to provide intelligence to those CHP officers that they're there still behind this chase. But they are not giving up on this driver. They do want to take this driver into custody. We had spoken with a captain from Ventura County Sheriff's. There, at last check, there were at least 2 Ventura County Sheriff's deputies that were also trailing behind the CHP officers because they intend to take this driver back to Ventura County after she is taken into custody. But right now, unfortunately, we will no longer have eyes on this pursuit while SkyCal goes in to get a little bit more fuel as they've burned it all, Ross. This has been a very long pursuit. We've burned all of the fuel today getting down here.
I was going to say, it's a long pursuit when SkyCal has to go back to refuel. I've just been texting with some of my colleagues in San Diego, and although we see things like this happen here quite frequently, this veteran that's been down there quite a while saying that they have not seen anything like this in years. If you were just joining us, we have been covering a car chase here since 11 o'clock this morning. This minivan, a Toyota Sienna, stolen in Thousand Oaks and then leading local authorities and the CHP on a chase through Ventura County, through LA County, Orange County, and now San Diego County, approaching the downtown area. Our chopper, SkyCal, has had to leave to refuel. You were looking at video shot earlier of officers trying to throw out the spike strips. We are going to continue covering this as long as it takes with our partners in San Diego. For now, though, we're going to sign off and bring you back to our programming. We'll have the very latest coming up for you, coming up on our next news program at 4 o'clock on Channel 2.